Hello, you're watching Avenue X, and let's talk about how Chinese New Year can get my mind blown in two completely different ways. It's not really making sense to compare an animation film to a live-action television drama, but then it's my channel, so I'll do whatever I like. And if you're curious about what's going on right now of Chinese New Year's film slot, there is a clear winner, the animation we're gonna talk about today, Ne Zha, the second movie, 魔童脑海. And the one following would be Detective Chinatown. Let's first talk about mind blown in the positive way. Ne Zha. Back in 2019 was the first movie. I did make a video talking about it if I haven't remembered it wrong. Come to think of that, actually from that point on to now, I was only in China 3 times. Summer 2019. Then the next time I was in China was 2023, August, September-ish. And then it's this time, end of last year to now. Considering this movie, right, only released 2 movies crossing 5-year time span, and I happened to be at the first movie's release in China, and then the second movie's release in China too. Maybe I have some special relationship with 天庭三大反骨仔, which is the Heavenly Palace's 3 rebels in Chinese mythology, including Wukong, the Monkey King, who has made himself famous last year because of the release of Black Myth Wukong. I've made extensive videos on that game. Now it's this IP about this character, Ne Zha. The other guy is Yang Jian, who is actually also in Black Myth Wukong game, everything considered. I have something to do basically with rebels of Chinese legend. Anyway, this is the second movie. I do think it represents the highest standard of animation we have today in China. Maybe it's still not up to, I'd say, narrative quality and the best scriptwriting quality you have in this world compared to the best, but in every other department imaginable of an animation making, it has pretty much leveled itself up to the highest standard possible in 2020s in our world. It is about to touch the ceiling of the highest grossing movie ever in China, 7 billion RMB, which would equal to $1 billion US dollars. Second, the movie itself has a huge leap up in every department compared to the first movie 5 years ago. You do feel that this studio really put every cent they earned from the first movie into the second one. The incredible thing about this movie, and it's not just that particular screening that I observed, but I read this from a lot of people's report when they went into theater with a lot of kids, as this is animation, obviously during holiday, parents and kids. This is a long movie for kids to sit tight and watch through it, 2 hours and 24 minutes. Yet, almost no kid at any point will get impatient and create noises, particularly at the end of the movie. Last 20 minutes, everybody was just hooked to the screen. And there's a really simple way of telling if a movie has succeeded in storytelling, which is before the movie starts, look at your watch or clock or on your phone. When it finishes, start to run credits, look at the time again, and you know exactly how much time has passed. And in your head, what does it feel like? If it feels significantly shorter, that means the movie has succeeded. When I was watching it, it feels more like a movie between 1 hour and 40 minutes to 2 hours. That's my biological clock telling me how long it is, so that's success. Because I watched Detective Chinatown a day before this movie, and that movie is slightly shorter than Ne Zha. It's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. I honestly can tell you the last 30 minutes I was fidgeting in my seat, and I can't wait for it to finish. In terms of box office, in terms of your biological clock, it is a positive mind blow for this movie for me. On the hardware side, I'm not animation expert, but I do know. Just look at the visual, you know how much work is involved in it. Ne Zha is still continuing its style from the first movie, but it definitely made everything a lot grander. If you don't go into the theater, you just look at all material online they have so far released on their official accounts of different trailers and any type of promo, short parts, you have no idea about how much bigger the movie got. Right now, there's this epic fight scene with all the yaoguai with chains behind them jumping from the lava into the city of Chentangguan, which is the first movie's Ne Zha's home. And you think, wow, epic battle, it looks grand. That was like 7 minutes into the movie. And this movie has many more battles. And everyone is bigger than this one. Particularly the last one is mind blown. All the official materials that are out there for you to look at on the internet right now doesn't include any of the good part, really, of this movie. And without spoiling anything, I'll tell you at the end when the biggest battle happened, it was a very different way of doing giant battles between giant armies compared to everything you've seen previously. They said in an interview there were over 200 million individual items in that shot that needs to basically come together. How many GPUs were they burning? I have no idea. Probably takes hundreds of hours to just render that couple of seconds. Whether you're an animation lover or not, if you're interested in cinema and then in spectacular imageries, you have to go and see this movie because it has so many. It's just not one or two, it's like 10, 15 sceneries and moments that got created on screen that just make you go, wow, I'm so happy I live in 2025. I'll mention just another important point, which pretty much everybody who goes to a theater, watch the movie, and who are in any way not too old or not too young to follow or understand what's going on in the world right now would very easily get. The movie is a huge metaphor for a lot of things ongoing in the world between different regions of the world, different countries of the world, what's going on between US and China or US and the world, and within US, if you want to think about that way. It offers multiple layers of interpretation. If you want to, you can overinterpret pretty much everything in this movie to your liking. I do think the creators have intentionally added a lot of their metaphor and interpretation into it, but they also know it fits the story itself. So even if you don't overinterpret it anyway, it wouldn't feel weird when it's native in its 仙 and 魔 and 妖怪, that mythological world setting. There's this huge thing in Ne Zha too about how the good people, the heavenly beings, the gods, how they get their power. Guess what? Think about Black Myth Wukong. Think about how little 妖怪 and humans get turned into golden pills and that gets consumed up there to sustain their power. It's the same thing in Ne Zha. I don't think the game maker and the animation maker necessarily talk to each other about how they're going to write the story. It just kind of arrived naturally at the same conclusion. But Ne Zha went, I'd say, a step further. On China's internet, everybody is pretty direct about pointing out what the animation is suggesting. So I'll just offer a couple of interpretations from Chinese audiences. If you get to see this movie in your theater, wherever you are, you can go and then check that out and make up your own mind about it. The heavenly beings who hold the most power, who live in those jade palaces, represents the superpower in the world right now, which is America, has its power by exploiting every other beings in this world who are under them. They decide who is good and who is bad. And it doesn't even have to be anybody who does anything wrong. If they don't like you or they just want your resources, they will put something on you saying you're wrong and you need to be contained or destroyed for the justice of the world. So they go and destroy you without even bothering sometimes to find a reason for it. For example, to go to the heavenly realm, you have to pass this gate, and the gate is on the top of this snowy mountain. On the ridge of the mountain, you can see tiny, tiny, tiny beings walking in a line trying to get to the gate, because go to the gate, they get examined. If they pass, they become that realm's citizen. To think about borders and what's happening in America and how many people are trying to illegally immigrate there or illegally, when you get certification to become a member of the gods, you literally get a jade tablet. It's green, and it has pretty much the Chinese rendered version of the America's ego. When Ne Zha first arrived at the palace, it's all slightly green, but almost completely white jade palace. He said, 好白,好白,好白 3 times. So white, so white. Now you can interpret that however you like, whether it's white people or whether it's white palace. There is this furnace that got used to turn the flesh and blood of all the 妖怪 into the golden pills for the gods to consume to keep their rule and power of the world. Literally, that furnace, the gate of it, is a symbol of US dollars. The bad guy has 2 disciples. One is a crane and the other is a deer. They're both 妖怪 actually, but they went through the exam system and basically turned themselves into deities. They help the power to control other 妖怪 and literally kill them for their own benefit. And in the story, if you look at what they've done and how they act, whether it's in the actual movie or in the end Easter egg part, for Chinese people, it's quite easy to actually tell which these 2 characters represent as which 2 countries. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I think if you are very familiar with what goes on in Asia, you probably can easily tell. This film can really be overinterpreted pretty much in every way. And I think it's intentional. And depending on how you want to interpret it and where you're from and what is your sort of political, whatever view of the world, you can arrive at different conclusions. I think a lot of people or a lot of nations, people from different countries, they really can find metaphor for themselves in the story. It pretty much gives you a picture of under a superpower. There are multiple groups, different types of smaller nations, smaller people, how they survive under this superpower. I had a lot of fun watching these and I find them hilarious. And I'm really happy to see that Chinese animation makers these days are like, we just want to have fun ourselves and it's our work, so we do whatever we like. Very unapologetic about their opinions, which is totally different. Let's say compared to even just 10 years ago, how overall the general public's view are about global politics and how you would inject that into your own work. It does get to the point where you really feel they're like, we don't care. We just want to have fun. We just want Ne Zha's spirit, the rebellious spirit against all the injustice in the world, come out of the story, frankly, in your face, with the highest ceiling of CG that China can touch right now. And obviously, I also really ship the two leads. And it's definitely a selling point. And now you see a lot of fan art coming out more and more 5 years after its cooling period. If you're in any way, right, a shipper of CPs, oh, go in to watch this movie for sure. And also, traditional theme that will always work really well for a family movie, the love between family members, between parents and their kids. Have multiple pairs in the second movie and definitely bring some tissue to the cinema. I'm just telling you. You need to get something to take away your tears because at some point you probably are gonna cry a lot. And they did really well in the first movie, but in the second movie it's kind of like even more. But don't worry about like it being slow or sad. No, it's super fun. Pretty much every couple of seconds there's something that's funny happening on screen. Really curious if this movie actually goes into theaters in, say, US, right? And then people watch it, how they would react to it, how much they would interpret the story and how much details they would be able to catch from the image and the spoken lines. My channel is not a politics channel, but then does not mean I live under a rock. Anyway, this movie in every way is worth you spending money. It's worth watching on the biggest IMAX you can get hold of. That's the good part that I had a lot of fun with. And then let's move on to the second part, which is the mind blow in the completely opposite direction, which is I regret every second I spent watching the drama. I watched 2 episodes, I quit, and I'm not gonna go back, which is The White Olive Tree, 白色橄榄树. I just mentioned in my weekly video, led by Chen Zheyuan, Liang Jie, based on the novel written by Jiu Yuexi, who wrote Fireworks of My Heart. 2023 summer really gave Chinese internet drama reviewer a feast of ranting. It went live on the 1st of February evening on iQIYI, and I clicked in and oh my god, mind blown. So if you haven't watched it, basically the female lead is a war zone journalist, or she does multiple things, but sometimes she goes to war zone just for fun. Because if you keep watching the drama, it kind of like, it's not her expertise. She doesn't really just like specializes in that, but somehow she goes to war zone and still have like pretty hair while trying to run away from bombs. And then the guy is a volunteer overseas to everywhere in the world where there's war. He's the person who would go and try to disarm landmines, whatever bombs, that's his job. So as you can imagine, the encounter outside of China in the war zone, she steps on a landmine and he saved her, and that's how they first met. Remind you of something? That drama. I don't think it's a secret. Everybody who watches it will know, okay, it's kind of like copying the same thing from Descendant of the Sun, and this writer of novel is known to kind of pulling everything from everything else and mix them up into her own work. It's old news. The funny thing about this is an iQIYI drama, and iQIYI had a big hand in the making of Descendant of the Sun, in case you don't know. Previously, before that, Korean dramas were all made while it was airing seasonally like American dramas. As the time goes on, you're making new episodes. You're not finishing the whole thing and then get it all made and release in one go. Because this drama had tight relationship with China's investment, and it was also iQIYI's involvement, and it was intended to air at the same time in China and also in Korea. But China's rule is you have to finish the whole thing, censor it. When it's all good, you can release. Because of that, they actually filmed the whole thing and finished the post-production and then released it episode by episode, which changed how usually things gets done. in Korea. So Descendant of the Sun is actually tightly related to iQIYI. It's weird to see it many years later, 10 years later, right? iQIYI has its own version, the knockoff. Like, I wouldn't even say that because don't compare these two dramas. They really don't look similar in any way, apart from like there's the plot where the female lead steps on a landmine. Mind blown happens from first sequence. She's the journalist typing and she's in a country outside China. It has this like 小红书 vibe of somebody who lives in the perfect bubble and enjoying an expat life in a different country, loving its people in country, feeling really good, and bomb happens. And then she goes onto the rooftop and trying to do a live link satellite to the station in China. And oh my god, the CG, the smoke is completely detached from its background. It's just literally like PNG added on top. There's no integration with the actual three-dimensionality of the architecture or the lighting even. So it's plastered on fire, plastered on smoke. She steps on a landmine, the guy saves her, and then they ran, then it explodes and they fell on the ground. Right after she got up, and the male lead goes away to talk to other people, and the guy is completely covered. He only has his eyebrows and his eyes exposed to view. Everything else is covered by his gears. You know his voice. Apart from that, you have no clue about what this guy actually looks like, the full face. When she's talking to his teammate, she's already eyeing the guy as if she has X-rated him. In that sort of like dazed look, start to take out her camera and photograph the guy. And from that point on to the point she left the war zone in the bus, being dragged away, all her attention is on this guy. Like, she kind of forgot that she's in a war zone and she needs to report and do other work. Come on, you don't even know what the guy looked like. What if he's not your type? Don't think it makes sense for a professional woman in the war zone, right? The first thing you should be worried about is, am I gonna die next second? How am I gonna keep myself safe and get my job done? And already that drama at that point, which is episode 1, like middle of it, already lost me. And then as the story goes on, it just gets more and more ridiculous. There are so many things this drama does that just completely makes me go, I'm not gonna watch it anymore. I'm just gonna stop here. But before that, I need to make sure that I'm seeing what I'm seeing. I'm literally worried about my brain is not working. I may completely see it wrong because I don't believe normal people would film a drama like that, but they did. If you want to know how bad this drama is, just go to episode 2. Just watch the first 10 minutes. Or 5 minutes, really. So first, they met in the rain in slow motion, and then they get in the car. While the guy is driving, it's raining outside, and they're talking. You just watch that sequence, and I don't believe any normal human beings who have watched any type of dramas or films before would be able to stand that scene and think it's normal. I've never seen this type of weird acting that gets edited into a final cut. Whatever language you speak, I presume you would have emphasis and you would have words that link together tighter than others, and you will naturally break down a sentence into clumps of words and have a natural flow of rhythm. That's how normal people talk. And also, normal people in normal conversation tends to do it at a, if you haven't learned the language, you think it's too fast, speed. They don't talk as if they try to teach you the language. Yet, in this scene, both actors talk extremely slowly. That's beyond reasonable for normal conversation in Mandarin in China, in the real world. Liang Jie, the actress, did it slightly better, not so slow and weird. But Chen Zheyuan, wow, that dialogue line delivery, I don't know how it actually got a pass from the director, unless the director is literally not sitting in front of the monitor. Or they did it intentionally and they think this is how the lead actor should be speaking. If that's the case, then the whole crew is like, nobody is professional. It should not be made by these people. He literally spoke at this absolutely unbearable slow speed, one character after another with exactly equal space between them. Imagine from now on, I am going to speak in my video like this. Literally, that's how he spoke in his entire dialogue, which is not short. I've never seen this kind of acting anywhere in the world. That's not meant as a comedy. If you do that on camera, it literally will end up on gag reel. Like, that's the only possibility of it happening. Any proper released visual narrative storytelling will not allow actors to act like that. And it's not the only scene looking like that in this drama. There are other scenes that are like this, but this is the most obvious and over-the-top weird acting I've seen. At that point, I know this drama is unwatchable, because if anybody allows that scene to just end up in the final cut, that means they don't care. They want to rush it and finish making it, put it out there and get it over and done with and forget about it. The basics of the basics, like so basic that you almost never question that it could go wrong. It's like if you're driving a car, then everybody would assume without actually speaking it out loud that cars will have wheels. Yet there's a car that's driving without wheels. I was so shocked that I couldn't even be sure if I was, like, my brain is interpreting it right. Like, I actually thought my brain has some problem. And then I asked other people, and they weren't watching that sequence, and they were all like, what the F am I looking at? I'm like, okay, so that means I'm normal. I'm still, like, normal. And I feel really, really bad. I like Liang Jie. And she actually isn't doing a bad job in this drama. But I think because how bad the script is and then how the direction doesn't care about anything, so she can only do this much. And then Chen Zheyuan, many, many years ago, I thought he was hopeful because he really did a good job. I still remember the Dear Ancestor drama where he's not a matured actor at all. He's very young, but he has this energy that's so genuine. He cares about his character. He believes his character, although it's ridiculous that it's a time travel story. 7-8 years later, we have this. So that's the negative mind blow. I thought the industry's bottom line is here, but apparently it's a lot lower. So this is my weird video about mind blow in the positive direction and mind blow in the completely unbelievably negative direction. That will be the end of this video. Thank you for watching Avenue X. I'll see you in my next video. Meanwhile, live long and happy drama watching.